I really don't think we gotta go over a plot description for this one because it's Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, everyone's already seen this, so I'm not gonna go into a plot description, but I will say this is gonna be a non-spoiler review. I made sure that my notes don't have any spoilers in them, so you don't really have to worry about that. No big spoilers are gonna be talked about here. Might do a spoiler review if I want to, but I gotta say that this is an ultimate nerd dream. Deadpool and Wolverine was. I had so much fun with this movie. I loved it so much. It just was a really big crowd pleaser, let's say that. Just like No Way Home and Avengers Endgame, this film is like a wet dream for comic book fans and superhero fans, which is funny because if you're not terminally online like me, you won't know it, but film Twitter and critics are trying to destroy this movie in like every way. It seems at this point, I think in the Marvel universe, everyone is going in with preconceived notions about Marvel movies and the Deadpool movies. Like, if you're not a fan of the Deadpool movies, then why go and see it and why trash it at this point? I think a lot of critics are doing that, but I think the audience scores of Deadpool and Wolverine show that it's critic proof, just like, you know, a movie like Super Mario from last year making $1 billion. Some movies are critic proof, just like Deadpool and Wolverine is, and it's kind of unbelievable what they pulled off here. Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds, you know, they mostly wrote the film. There's a couple other writers in there, but it's kind of unbelievable what they pulled off. And as I said, avoid all spoilers because I did here, which is kind of surprising for me because usually when I go into Marvel movies, I get spoiled on stuff on YouTube, like someone's recording the screen and I'm like, oh, I got spoiled on that. Oh, that's a little depressing. And even with No Way Home, I got spoiled. I already knew that Tobey and Andrew was going to be in it. Everyone already knew that. But there are some huge surprises in this one, and I was not spoiled at all. This is the one time where I haven't known too much about the movie except for the main trailers, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Some of these cameos caught me off guard because you see one cameo, you're like, "Holy crap, that's kind of insane," and you see another cameo, and you're like, "Oh my god, there's no way that person showed up for this movie," and then you see another cameo, you're like, what the hell? How is this even a real movie? Like, sometimes it doesn't feel like a real movie. Sometimes it feels like a fan fiction in like the best ways possible because of who they got for this movie, like what the team up is like in this movie. And I just gotta say, I think it was just amazing to see this with a full crowd. If you do want to go into it and do want to have this amazing time like I did, I will say go in with a big crowd, go to the IMAX theater. Just my audience on both of my Thursday night showings, because I saw it 2 times on Thursday, they went crazy both times, especially at the later showing at like 6 o'clock. My audience was going bananas at these certain cameos and certain surprises, and I was like, oh my god, this is just like, you know, a great experience because you don't really have this experience a lot. It's like No Way Home was the last one. That was like 3 years ago, so it's been a long time since we've had these huge fan reactions, but it was well worth the wait. And Sean Levy is the director of this one. I think the Deadpool movies have had a different director for each one. It was interesting to see Sean Levy take on this huge movie since he's not really known for like huge movies. I know he's known for a lot of movies, but he did do this movie because I think the Adam Project, Ryan Reynolds did like him a lot. I know a lot of people hate Sean Levy with his direction and movies, especially his style. And I will say, you know, it's not like A plus his direction here. His style's not the greatest, but it's good enough. I'd say that. I think a lot of the decisions with the color grading and certain decisions with certain action sequences weren't great, but then other action sequences and other areas of the film did look great. So it's interesting how the movie looked, how the movie came together. I think Sean Levy, I think he needs a little more creative style in his bag for him to continue making these big superhero movies, but I think he did a decent job. I want to keep talking about the action because these sequences were all pretty great, except for one. I think one was disappointing. I think that this has the best action in all 3 of the Deadpool movies. The intro of the movie, like the first 5 minutes, there's a specific action sequence there with InSync's Bye Bye Bye. That was one of my favorite moments of the whole movie. I thought the choreography and just what they were showing there with Deadpool using, you know, a certain weapon there, what just made it even better. I thought the action sequence just had me smiling like the whole time it was going. And then, you know, you're going into this movie, it's called Deadpool and Wolverine, so you're gonna expect some Deadpool versus Wolverine fights, and I think those fights were also really well done, and a lot of what I wanted was in there. Like Logan went kind of crazy, like he went kind of feral, which is what we've all wanted as Wolverine fans. And there's two specific fight scenes between them, and I think, and one of them was in a car, and that was a blast. That fight scene was great. It's a great usage of a small area, and they definitely went for a lot of different creative decisions with those fight scenes, and I absolutely loved what they did with those. The third act action sequence though was my least favorite because of how short it was, and I didn't feel as creative as the others. I thought it was just a bit lazy with what they did, and I thought that action sequence was a little CGI heavy compared to the other ones. So I will say that action sequence wasn't as great, but it was still fun to watch. And you're going into a Deadpool movie for a lot of jokes. You're going into it basically for the humor, because that's who Deadpool is. He's a merc. He's the merc with the mouth. And there's so many laughs in this one. I don't know if it's the funniest out of the three, but it's close considering I think that the second one is pretty funny. But I think the first one is the funniest. But I will say I had a lot of laughs with this one, especially my audience did. My audience laughed a lot, especially in the second viewing. Just so many more people there. You could hear a lot of laughter. You could hear so much laughter in my second audience where you couldn't even hear the film at certain parts. It was kind of insane. I don't want to get into what the jokes were because some people, haven't seen it, but I loved what they did with, Deadpool making fun of how Marvel's doing at the moment because they're kind of at a low point, and that's what they said in the movie. Some of they're at a pretty low point, and they're like, he's like, I'm here to save it. I'm Marvel Jesus from the trailers. I thought that was nice, making fun of Marvel. I like how Kevin Feige let them do that. There's a specific Will Smith joke that caught me off guard, but I was laughing really hard at that. And then there's jokes that are made about the cameos, which I can't get into, but those were also pretty funny. Do you want to talk about the villain, though? Cassandra Nova, played by Emma Corrin. She's a very powerful villain in the movie, especially, what she does with her, hands and fingers here. It's kind of gross what she does. But honestly, she was only like a B villain for me personally, because she was strong at times and weaker at other times. And I didn't really feel that compelled by her narrative and motive. I thought that she wasn't really, that great of a villain here. I would have liked to see a different villain here. And honestly, I was just really entertained by what Deadpool and Wolverine were doing. I could have cared less about, Cassandra Nova. So she was just all right. But we got to talk about Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, the two main stars of the movie. The movie is named after them, Deadpool and Wolverine. They're both terrific here. Ryan Reynolds continues to be hilarious in the role as always, especially with his little fourth wall breaks. There's one specific one talking about Disney and Disneyland that was really hilarious. But I think it's Hugh Jackman that steals the show with his emotion here and rage as this one Wolverine that he plays that's lost everything and is just a drunk. And you see Ryan Reynolds and him going at it because they have a lot of times where they disagree and just go at each other. And just it was really cool to see Hugh Jackman take on a different Wolverine. And a lot of people were worried that they're going to ruin his legacy, but this is a different one. And Hugh did a great job making a send off and a good goodbye for Logan in the Logan movie. And now he did a great job at bringing us back to loving a new Logan after we see him for the first time. You don't really like him. You're like, this guy's just a grumpy old Wolverine that doesn't really do anything, just slumps around, just drinking all the time. But he does a great job at making us love this new character and making us laugh at the same time. And just his little one-liners against Wade were hilarious. I loved how they just threw one-liners at each other. And he was like, I don't want to be here. I just want to fight you. And there's one specific, as I said, there's one specific scene where he's so entertained when he's fighting Deadpool. It made it even better. There's also a pretty nice soundtrack for this one. I know a lot of people will probably get annoyed by how many songs are in it, but I think the specific songs that they played for just a little bit were great, especially they added to the specific action scenes that they played with. Especially the first one, as I said, in the car fight scene had great song choices with them. I thought they added a nice touch to it, and I thought they were pretty funny how they played out. So overall, Deadpool and Wolverine made me giddy. It made me so joyful that we're seeing another comic book movie come to life. It felt like a comic book coming to life, I will say. It's just a fun time, and I recommend seeing it with a crowd and avoiding all spoilers because my audience reactions, as I said, both times brought me so much joy. It's a nerd dream, to see all these cameos brought to life. As I said, it's like a fan fiction come to life in an interesting way. The action sequences in particular were pretty great. The soundtrack had a lot of funny songs to it, a lot of fun songs to it where you're just bobbing your head, had me smiling from ear to ear. The third act was a little bit messy, but in the end, it still ended on a strong note because it focused on Deadpool and Wolverine as these great characters and what they stand for. So Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really did love this one. I've got tired about listening to people who just hate comic book movies. I'm going into them just for my own enjoyment at this point. I don't care if you don't like them. I don't care if critics don't like them. I'm still gonna go into it with just, you know, zero expectations. And that's what I did with this one. And I think that's what you guys should do, because as I said, I really did love it. It's a really fun movie with a lot of great surprises, a lot of great cameos that paid off very well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. Leave your thoughts down below if you did see Deadpool and Wolverine. If you did enjoy my review though, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.